USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Have you ever spotted McDonald's hot, crispy fries right as they're being scooped into the carton? And time just stands still. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got not one, but two special guests with me today. They are Attitude Era legends, former WWE Tag Team Champions. I'm talking about Mosh and Thrasher, the Headbangers. Welcome, guys, to Wrestling with Heart.
Woo!
All right. First ever duo here, tag team in the podcast with us talking. So tell me about where you guys grew up. Where are you from?
We're both from South Jersey.
Yeah.
Both grew up in South Jersey.
And it's funny, too, because we grew up about 10 minutes apart from each other.
10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So childhood friends, go to the same school, hang out together?
No, our high schools actually wrestled each other, but so we knew of each other through that, but didn't really know each other, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Kind of, sort of, in a weird way.
Now, were you guys wrestling fans growing up before you got into the business? Did you guys grow up playing any sports? What were some of your hobbies?
I was not a huge wrestling fan. I watched it occasionally, but my thing was more, I played Pop Warner football from the time I was 5 or 6, or the time you were able to play, all the way up through high school and stuff like that. And then I wrestled also in high school. So I wasn't a huge wrestling fan. I might have went to one live event ever before I started doing it. I just thought it was a better transition than going to jail. So it's more enjoyable to beat somebody up and get paid for it. So, yeah.
I was a big fan growing up. I loved it. We used to take, my buddies and I, we take the high speed line to the subway over to Philly to go to the old Spectrum to watch. It was there every month. We were there every month. We do pay-per-view parties. I went to Garden State Racetrack to watch when they would do the closed circuit TV for WrestleMania and stuff. So, yeah, I was a pretty big fan. I had the big LJN figures, the ring. I used to break the ring so much. My grandfather worked with metal. He made me steel ring posts because I was breaking the
You were a diehard fan.
Yeah. Listen, it is what it is. Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, talk to me about, you watch wrestling, you play sports. I'm sure playing football and wrestling in high school had to prepare you for what you would later do in the ring, because it's a lot of physicality.
So my thing is a little different. I was always intrigued by it, but I was never, like Jazz was. He was more like a diehard fan and stuff. I was always in kind of thing. And the guys were so big back then. I mean, you had Andre the Giant, Big John Studd, King Kong, but you had all these guys who were like huge. Here I'm 6'4", 160 pounds, soaking wet. it wasn't something where I went, boy, I want to do that because I want to get beat up by these big giant guys. So it was weird. The way I got into it is Larry Sharp owned the Monster Factory in Paulsboro, New Jersey. And when I graduated high school, he would send out a postcard to graduating seniors that were in athletics. Or I don't know how he did it, but I got a postcard that said, free tryout, the Monster Factory with the address, anytime, Monday through Thursday from like 6 to 9. So I had that like on my thing because I was interested by it. And I had a tournament in Paulsboro High School for, scholastic wrestling. And I went over and I peeked in the window and went, oh, that's cool. And then just never paid any mind to it until I went to Philadelphia and I got a computer degree in computers and for the big mainframes and shit like that, and hated it. I was working 9 at night to 7 o'clock in the morning. So I just decided one time to go down there and look at it. Now, again, 6'4", 170 maybe. And I walk in and there's all these lights and cameras and, just everything all over the place. It smacked me right in the face. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Long story short, Larry doesn't take everyone from his tryouts. So these guys are coming in and out and going, no, he told me no. I have $3,000 cash for him. They told me no. So I went in there. I said, listen, before you say anything, let me put on some weight. Let me come back down. I really enjoyed it and try out again. He's like, kid, it's a lot easier to teach you how to do all these flips and jumps and everything else at 170 than it is 225. I gave him $1,500 cash and $100 a week for the next 15 weeks. And within 6 months, I was in Japan tagging with Abdullah the Butcher, Stan Hansen, and Danny Spivey, and Giant Baba, and all them. So yeah, it happened fast. It started in June of 1991. So I'm coming up on 34 years.
Yeah, I mean, once you develop like a repertoire and you start, what you want to do, and you start training. You're off to the races. And so going to Japan 6 months in, I mean, that's not, it's like.
I was totally blindsided. So what happened with that is the Nasty Boys were slated to go over to Japan, and they got signed by Vince in 1991. So they went over, and I think it was Dory Funk, junior or senior, one of them was booking for Giant Baba and was friends with Larry, and called up Larry, goes, hey, I need 2 guys on the fly that have passports that can wear long trench coats and look mean. So it was me and this other guy who didn't look very mean. We just took pictures and they took us. And by the end of the tour, he was hurt and I was, in semi-main events, as the fall guy. But I mean, I'm 6 months into business. I didn't care. I was in Japan making crazy money wrestling with Abdullah the Butcher.
It's crazy.
So, yeah.
I mean, you're traveling to different places and getting to work in different crowds. I mean, you're on cloud 9. I mean,
and it was funny because that's when I decided, I'm going to, go after this and see if I can't make something of it and stuff like that. And then another, I don't know, what was it, a year and a half, 2 years, Chaz came down to the school. So he can pick that story up.
I don't know if he wanted to hear all that, but Glenn just keeps bringing up Japan because he's rubbing it in my face that I've never been to Japan yet. So if anyone here wants me to go to Japan, I'm in.
So Chaz, talk to me about your story. You were a fan growing up. You knew you wanted to get in the business. How did you get?
I didn't know. I don't know if I'd say I knew I wanted to get into business. I actually used to joke with my friends and say, one day you'll see me in that ring. One day I'll be in that ring. But I just said it, it was kind of a joke. I had no idea what I was doing or what I wanted to do. I was doing what you're politically correct supposed to do after high school and go to college. I was in my, 3rd or 4th year of junior college, of a community college with no degree. I was just just cashing in on credits. Had no idea what I was going to do. And then one Saturday night, Glenn went when it was in Paulsboro. When I went to the school, it was at a different location, which was about 15 minutes from where I grew up. And they would have a big, giant, like, truck out front on the curb. And a pro wrestling, it would be spray paint on the side.
Spray painted.
8 o'clock. So one Saturday, I was like, I have nothing to do, so let me go check this out and see what it's about. And I went in, and I literally thought it was the cheesiest stuff I'd ever seen. And only because I was expecting more of a WWE production, because that's all I saw. You know, that's all I used to. I didn't know what indie wrestling was back then. Never heard of it. Didn't know it existed. You know, I had no idea how people got to, you know, there was no internet or anything. I don't know how people got, you know, to WWF or WCW or wherever. So I was there, and I was watching, and I was like, well, this is interesting. And then, you know, I'm like, who's this goof with a spider mask on wrestling? And there's WWA on the wall, and then there's the Monster Factory. So after the show, I kind of just lingered in a creepy way just to kind of see what was going on behind the scenes and stuff like that. And then Glenn was over there. Glenn was the creepy guy in the spider mask because he was a champ. And I just went over and, like, mentioned, I'm like, what is this? And then him and I started talking and realized, you know, our high schools wrestled one another, so we grew up in the same area. And it's funny because Glenn's story of he was, you know, 6'4", 170 pounds. I was like 6'1", 6'2", but the same thing. I was still wrestling, doing amateur tournaments because I wrestled from third grade all the way through high school and dabbled a little bit in college. But yeah, I was like 165, 170 pounds myself. And same thing. I said to him, I should come back over the summer. Let me put weight on. And he told me the same thing Larry told him was, it's better to learn, easier to learn as you put weight on. She's like, if you come back 30 pounds heavier, you know, you're not going to be able to move. So I did the same thing. I did the tryout. There were 6 of us. And Larry said, I don't take everybody. And I thought the same thing. That's just bullshit. This is sitting right here. You're taking everybody. And no, he took 2 of us. And like Glenn said, 6 months into his career, his training, he was in Japan. Well, 3 weeks into my training, I was on WWF TV getting the shit beat by Adam Bomb and Papa Shango. And I was the same way after that first match with Adam Bomb. I remember we stopped at a gas station on the way home, and I called on the way to the next town, and I called my mom, and I was like, this is what I'm doing. She was like, what? I'm like, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. And she was like, yeah, okay. And I got home, and I'll never forget it. She was like, all right, you got this shit out of your system now. You can go back to school and get a real job. And I'm like, no, this is what I want to do. And that's how my career started. I actually had 4 TV matches just getting the shit beat out of me before I had my first real match down at the school.
3 weeks in.
And it was so funny, too, because back then that's when the WWE was up and down the East Coast. So when they always did, you know, Saturday morning superstars or whatever they called it back then, and they would always get the extra guys from the local wrestling schools. And Larry always told me from day one, it's a lot harder making this look believable, getting your ass kicked, than kicking somebody's ass. So I was like, let me go up there. And I remember telling Chaz, I was like, don't worry, they've never seen you before. They won't pick you to wrestle. And sure as shit.
They won't use you. They roll out the big whiteboard, and there it is, Adam Bomb versus Chaz Ware. And I was like, I thought, well, tonight's your lucky night, kid, and you're getting used. And I went out against Adam Bomb, and I stood in the middle of the ring and just went like this. I had this blank look on my face, and I was like raising my hand.
This is awesome.
You get a chance to be on TV. You got 3,000 people telling you suck, and I'm like, yeah, I know that. And all I could do was raise my hands and stand there. Like,
you're basically getting on-the-job training. You're getting that experience on the road, learning
100%.
People.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the great part is in that first match, like there was obviously everything was a first, but you know, I got thrown out onto the floor. I got the wind knocked out of me. I had Johnny Polo calling me a bum. I took, you know, a power bomb. I got clotheslined off the top rope. It's like all this cool stuff that you watch on TV. And I'm like, holy shit, this is all actually happening to me. And as it's happening, I have to keep covering my mouth like this because I'm smiling and laughing the whole time. I'm like, you're supposed to be getting the shit beat out of you, but meanwhile you're in the middle of the ring smiling and laughing. It doesn't work well.
It really, you have to learn, what to do and what not to do, because you're on TV and you're being seen across worldwide. And so you really have to learn and prepare for how to conduct yourself in the mainstream promotion.
Oh, yeah, and the only thing I knew how to do was bump and hit the ropes. And then part of me, because I was trying not to smile and laugh, I'm thinking they're not even going to use this on TV because I look like an idiot. And I didn't even know it was going to be on until it actually aired, because I literally thought they would cut it, but they didn't. It was amazing.
I mean, you're living your dream, getting to wrestle all these guys, and at the same time, you're going to wrestling school. It's crazy because you don't really hear many stories about people doing both.
No, and the cool part for me was, even if nothing would have ever came up with it, if nothing ever came out of me going to the school, or I never made it or anything, I at least had bragging rights of telling all my friends, I told you one day you'd see me in that ring.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
Now, growing up, did you guys have favorite wrestlers? Thrasher, I know you watched, but really seriously got into it a little bit later on. But did you guys have any favorites growing up that you idolized?
I mean, I always liked, if I really had to watch and say so, I was more like Kurt Hennig kind of thing, and the more athletic kind of guy, and things like that. Maybe Demolition. I really liked them because of their whole get up and stuff like that.
Chaz?
Yeah, so I had 3 favorites. But I had 3 favorites. I don't know if I had idolized them, but I had 3 favorites. One was Magnum TA. The first, when I was in high school, I got a little TV, and then next year for Christmas I got a VCR. And the first thing I did was run the West Coast Video to rent wrestling tapes. And I saw an NWA tape, and one of the old school ones had Ricky and Robert working Midnight Express on a scaffold match, and another one that had Magnum TA on it. And I love Magnum TA because matches were done in like 8 seconds with a belly-to-belly suplex. And I was like, in high school wrestling, we would throw each other, and you got able to do that. And I actually started using, the belly-to-belly in matches. I like the Ultimate Warrior just because he was the Ultimate Warrior. We didn't like that energy he came out with. But my favorite of all time, the GOAT, is the Macho Man.
Oh.
By far, Macho Man's the GOAT. He's my favorite of all time.
See, I was going to say that, but I didn't want to steal his thunder. So that's why I went a different way.
Macho Man had such an incredible personality in the costumes. I mean, the glasses and the colorful outfits he would wear to the ring.
Chaz has a Macho Man story if you'd like to hear it.
And more importantly, he had Miss Elizabeth with him. So, he had the hottest woman at the time. Like I said, my best friend and I, Mike, we'd go to the Spectrum every month. And we tried to get there early every month because we wanted to get front row seats. And so we finally got front row seats. And this isn't the story that Glenn was talking about. I'll have to tell that one next. But we got front row seats. And the main event that night was Macho Man versus Honky Tonk Man in a cage match. So I'm jacked. I'm like, I'm going to have Macho Man in front of me in a cage match. Miss Elizabeth's going to be standing right here in front of me. I'm going to have material for days. This is awesome. So they're setting up the cage. The entrances come out. Honky Tonk Man's in the ring. Here comes Macho Man. Miss Elizabeth standing literally right in front of me. And then here comes security, taps my buddy Mike on the shoulder and says, hey, you got to go. You got to get out. He was being kicked out. I turned around. I was like, what the hell's going on? What do you mean we got to leave? And my friend Mike looks at me. He goes, just stay here. I'll wait for you outside. I'm like, I'm not leaving you outside in Philly by yourself on a Saturday night. Like, that's dumb. Like, let's go. So I never saw the match. But the highlight of the evening was we got outside. I looked at my friend Mike. I go, what the fuck? I go, what was that about? He goes, they had commentators right here. and it was Gorilla Monsoon and someone else. He goes, I was hitting Gorilla Monsoon in the head with spitballs. We got the spectrum for that.
That'll do it.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, we got booted. So
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, so that's my first Macho Man story. The next one was my very first, like I said, 3 weeks into training. Macho Man was still there. He was doing commentary. And Glenn knew Macho Man was my favorite. So Macho Man's walking down the hall. He gets, 5-6 feet away from me. And all of a sudden, I'm flying in the air. Someone pushes me directly into him. Glenn shoves me, and I almost knocked him over. Like, if the wall wasn't there, I would have, landed on top of him, probably impregnated him. I would have landed on him so hard.
Wow.
So, we get up, and we get through that, and I turn around and, yell at Glenn, what the fuck? And I turn around, and he's not even there. He ducked down a little corridor. So now, later that evening, I'm standing at Gorilla, the TV. Back then, it was just a set of TV. And I'm pacing back and forth, waiting to have my first ever match with Adam Bomb. And here comes Macho Man. And he's like, hey, kid, you're good? First time here? And I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like, you're nervous? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And he starts walking away. And then he stops. He turns around and he goes, you know what? He goes, I'm not doing anything right now. He goes, I'm going to stand right here and I'm going to watch. And I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. No. You don't need to watch. I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea what I'm doing. Now I got to go out there and, try to put Adam Bomb over. But in the back of my head, I'm like, and I got a Macho Man watching in the back? No. So I go out and I do the match. I get through the match. Come back through the curtain. Macho Man standing right there like he said he would. Put his arm around me. We start walking down the hall, and he goes, kid, that was amazing. He's like, you're going to make a lot of money in this business one day. And he slapped me in the head and walked off. Never saw the man again. That was it.
So, and my one and only Macho Man story, besides that one, doesn't top it. Randy was always somebody that I always looked up to anyway, because when I first got down to the school, we were trying to come up, me and Larry were trying to come up with a name for myself. So he goes, I'm going to call you the Spider. I hated it. He goes, we're going to put a black mask on you and you're going to be called the Spider. He goes, you know why? He goes, because I wrestled with somebody called the Spider back in the day. He was a baseball player that moonlighted during the off season as a wrestler. And I was like, who the hell is that? He goes, Randy Poffo. I had no idea that was Macho Man until, I got more educated in the business. And then to learn that Randy used to wrestle as the Spider, when he was playing for, I think it was the Reds, I think he was playing for. And it was funny, years later, I was able to tell Lanny the story about becoming the Spider after Randy did it and why Larry called me that and everything else. And it was it was just cool. It was neat. He's like, you're built just like him. You're lanky and skinny and everything else. I was like, if I could just be a little bit like Macho Man, that'd be great. So, yeah, that's our Macho Man stories.
Those are incredible. And just somebody you could learn from, too, little things you could tweak in your work. And I think it's amazing to see how coming up you guys were able to rub shoulders with some of the greats, some of the legends. Any pieces of advice that people gave you starting out that you still apply to today?
Pretty much everything that Ricky and Robert ever told us in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, we still talk about to this day, I would say.
Yeah, probably the biggest thing is that I got out of it was listening to what, because, you get, especially when you're starting out, you do a match, you get in the back, everyone, especially down at the Monster Factory, you got guys that have been there for a couple years training. Then, you get, Lawler, and, Cornette, and, Abby, they bring, Larry brings these other guys in and doing other shows. You start getting, they watch the match, you start getting all this advice. So it's like, oh my God, what do you do with all this advice? And the biggest thing I got out of it was listen, digest it all, say thank you, walk away. And then when you get on your own, you get some quiet time, you think about it and you go, okay, what can I use for that will incorporate into my personality? And then try to use it and apply it and something that you think doesn't work for you, just get it out of your head. Shit it out. Get rid of it. So listen to everybody and then just pick and take bits and pieces of it and go, okay, because you can always learn. I mean, hell, we did a match. When was it? Maybe it was right before COVID. So 5 or 6 years ago, and Ricky Steamboat was there. And Ricky Steamboat came out and he watched our match. I didn't even know he watched the match, but we did a double down in the ring, and they got the heat on me. We did a double down. I did a big belly to back suplex or whatever it was. Then I just laid there selling. And when I got in the back, he goes, "You did this big move and did a hot tag." He's like, "Why'd you just lay there?" And I said, "Well, they were beating me up." So I was kind of like, oh my God, like I did a move out of desperation. Like, okay, now I'm dead. Like, and then slowly I crawled over McTagg. He goes, "No," he goes, "you do this big move." He goes, "You don't have to jump right up." He goes, "But you got to keep selling. You got to keep moving. You got to start the slow crawl all over." So I say this because, again, if this was 5 years ago, I'm in 25, 26 years into wrestling. And here's Ricky Steamboat actually watching one of our matches. And then this past year, the World Rumble in Indianapolis, we went to WrestleCon. And it was funny. Ricky Steamboat was there, and he was sitting at a table with a bunch of people telling everyone this story about this guy that had been around for a while. And I was sitting at the table. I'm like, "Ricky, that was me. Like, you're telling the story literally 5 years ago."
And that was the last time Chaz took any form of heat, was 5 years ago.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys got some pretty good advice, coming up and getting the chance to work with a lot of different people. Worked in USWA, Smoky Mountain. What was it like working for those promotions?
So it was weird because, like Chaz just said, Larry used to bring down like Lawler and Cornette and stuff like that. And they always said to me,
hold on, before Glenn goes on, let me just set the stage right now. USWA and Smoky Mountain, night and day differences. So go ahead.
Night. And they always said to me, Lawler would come up. He goes, "Hey, if you ever want to come down, just, here's my number. Call me. I'll put you in a spot, blah, blah, blah." And now here I'm by myself. And I never wanted to, I was scared, going to a new place, didn't know anybody. You hear all the stories about Memphis and USWA, you're only going to make $40 a night. And I never wanted to do that alone. And Larry never wanted me to be a tag team. He was like, "You know how hard it is to be a tag team?" He goes, "How many are on a card? 1, maybe 2?" He goes, "So you're eliminating your chances of being on cards by being in a tag team because it's 2, 3, 4 times harder to book them." And I was just at a point when, by the time Chaz got down there, I had to try it. And again, he was in the business very short period of time, and we ended up in Memphis because I just reached out to Laura and I was like, "Hey, we want to come down." And I think that same month, Lawler was at a show for Larry. We talked about it then, and we set up a date, and we drove down there. And like Chaz is saying, it was night and day between Smoky Mountain and USWA.
Yeah, USWA was, everything's
homegrown.
a learning experience. Everything's a learning experience, but USWA was learning how to work the politics, I guess, or how to not treat people. We obviously learned stuff, but it wasn't the experience. We learned but didn't learn, if that makes sense. The locker room in USWA, because we were
totally different.
Because we were from the Northeast, they knew we weren't staying, so the guys treated you different. They just wouldn't help you. They weren't helpful. No one in USWA wanted to help you get better. I guess that's the best way to put it. No one wanted to help you to get better. We got to Smoky Mountain. It was the total opposite. We had Ricky and Robert. We had Tracy.
Brad Armstrong.
You had Dirty White Boy, Tony Anthony. These guys are coming up to us after matches, talking to us, pulling us aside, going, "Hey, try this, do that. Like, okay, slow down here, maybe go faster here." Like, they were helping us. USWA, it was like we were just bodies there to put the local talent over, and then to eat us up and chew us up, spit us out, and get rid of us. It was just night and day that way, experience-wise. But either way, we learned a lot from USWA because we learned kind of how to
manage in the ring.
Manage in the ring. I learned how to sell a lot there because I really didn't know what I was doing. Because again, I was 9 months in, and here I am at USWA working a territory. So they were just way different.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
The way what we learned and what we didn't learn.
And you guys got your experience, seasoned, and then WWE calls, and you guys get the jump to go to WWE.
Well, that was weird because we were always in, I guess, the fold of WWE because we went up there, we did jobs, we knew by the time we were already in USWA and Smoky Mountain, we knew all the guys up in WWE at the time. And then, everything happened with Smoky Mountain, and Cornette told the whole locker room, I'm going to do everything I can to get each and every one of you guys a position up there. Because Cornette was very well respected in WWE at the time.
Yeah,
so
he was working for them full time at that point when Smoky Mountain closed down. And, but in between, like our run with USWA and in between going to Arkansas, in between everything, we were still doing TV matches for WWE. So everyone, the agents, Vince, you all know who we were. So what happened was we actually got we had a beeper that we shared with an 800 number, and we got a message from Cornette that he needed to talk to us. So we were coming back from Michigan. We pulled over.
We're like, oh shit, we're in trouble.
We pulled over in West Virginia, and it was still raining out a little. We were standing in a puddle on a payphone like this, talking to Cornette, and he said, "Hey, I got some news for you." He's like, "Where are you at?" So we told him, blah blah blah. He goes, "Great." He goes, "So I talked to Vince." So basically, he went into Vince and said, "Hey, I had this tag team. I'd like you to look at. They've been up here before doing jobs. And, I had them in Smoky Mountain." And Vince was like, "All right, so tell me about him." So he starts telling him more about us. And Vince turned around and looked at him. He goes, "Oh, you mean the Spiders? Those guys that have been up here before?" And Cornette was like, "Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But they have this other gimmick now that I want you to see." He goes, "I don't need to see him." He goes, "Just sign him to a part-time contract." Because they had this part-time contract at the time. And that's how we got our first contract with WWE. That was it.
And that part-time contract was sweet.
And we are the only guys on the part-time contract to sign a full-time deal.
Yep.
It's so unbelievable. You don't really hear stories about that because at that time it was unheard of to have like such a unique deal of that caliber, of that kind. And you guys were grinding it in USWA, Smoky Mountain, wrestling in the independents. You get your big break in WWE as a tag team.
We were grinding anywhere they'd pay us and book us.
That's right.
And the thing is the Headbangers gimmick is so unique and so cool. Who came up with
real. It's real.
Cornette came up with it. Cornette wanted to bring us. This is great. Cornette wanted to bring us in the Smoky Mountains, but we were wrestling in Arkansas for Burt Prentice as the Spiders. And he said, "I want to bring you boys in, but I don't like the masks." But then again, when he brought us in the Ring of Honor, he put masks on us. So that's the funny part. But no, he said, I was at this concert, this Glenn Dancing concert in New York. He said, and they were slam dancing, they were beating the shit out of each other, they're diving with each other, they're spitting on one another. He goes, they're wearing makeup and dresses and their tattoos and piercings. He goes, "Not that I want you to do all of that." He goes, "I'm just kind of letting you know." And I was like, "I know exactly what you're talking about." I'm like, I like that type of music. I've been to those concerts. I've been in a mosh pit. I slam dance. I've dove off a stage. I go, I've done it all, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And so he came up with the idea and the concept, and then from there we evolved it into what it has become today.
So you guys are metalheads. You guys like listening to the hard rock and heavy metal.
Yeah, I mean, I like all music. I mean, I listen to Beethoven. I love Billy Joel, but at the same time, I love Marilyn Manson. I love Guns N' Roses. I love AC/DC. So
the older stuff. Yeah.
I like everything. So it's just a matter of either what kind of mood am I in or what kind of mood am I trying to get in. And that's what I listen to.
That sounds so creepy.
What's like your go-to song when you're training? What's like your go-to when you're working?
Oh, so mine is like Voodoo. I listen to Alice in Chains. I listen to Ozzy Osbourne. I got Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle, Night Train on there by Guns N' Roses. Yeah, it's a variety. But it's all, all heavy stuff where I can just sit there and go like this the whole time.
Mine's just all over. And I usually listen to like a show or like I'm binge watching shows now and I'll just listen to the show. I don't need to see it. I just listen to it. You know, I'm that guy that you want to get off of the chest press because he's sitting here like this watching it. I'm that guy.
That's why Glenn spends 2 hours at the gym. He's not working out. He's watching the show.
And I work here. Yeah.
You guys get this gimmick. You guys put on some incredible matches. Who have been some of your favorite opponents that you've gotten the chance to work with over the years?
Simple.
New Age Outlaws, the Godwins. God. Yeah.
Yeah, New Age Outlaws and the Godwins are probably our two favorites.
You know, I tell everybody, I wish, you know, we would have been privileged enough to get some of the other chances that some of the other teams have gotten, you know, throughout the years and stuff like that. You know, I think we were, you know, dramatically underused. And I think we could have done a lot more. So, you know, if we would have had the opportunities that others had, you know, would we be having a different conversation today? I don't know.
You guys got
woulda, coulda, shoulda.
You guys got to win the tag titles. I mean, that's a huge deal. I mean, that had to have felt great getting the chance to win.
Yeah, that was nuts, is what it was.
That was an awful feeling. It was terrible. I'm like, why are you giving me
Yeah.
that? Of course it was amazing. It was I mean, you know.
He was so confused when you said that. His face just like went white.
Well, I'm sure you guys, that's a big, huge honor, you know, when they
we had no idea.
I mean,
we had no clue.
Especially the guys that are in the match with us. We're just, you know, unfortunately, Steve got hurt, but fortunately for us, Steve got hurt because if Steve never broke his neck, we're not in that match because him and Dude Love were tag champs. So Steve wasn't able to work, so we were able to take his spot. And to be in there with who we were in there with, you know, you got the Road Warriors and the Godwins and then Davey Boy and Owen. And getting the pin to Owen, you know, was just because Owen's just – he's iconic. He's an amazing, you know, was an amazing person. To be able to, for him to do the favor for us was just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better feeling in the world than winning the titles in front of a huge packed out crowd, chanting for you, and leaving with your head up high, on to the next town, going to the next show.
The pop we got that night when we won was amazing. I mean, really, the pop was for Stone Cold, but I'm taking it as our victory. And there was a bigger pop that night in the hotel, but we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Now, you also had the chance to go back to WWE in the last few years. 2016, you guys had a little run over there. What was it like going back?
It was like, for me, it was great because when I got out of wrestling and stuff like that in 2001, I like fell off the face of the earth. I did no, you know, independent shows or nothing like that. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped training. I was 315 pounds. So, you know, Chaz lived in Florida at the time. I was still up north. So we really didn't talk all that much and stuff like that. And then, you know, one year for his birthday, his 40th birthday, I came down to Florida for a surprise party. And he was like, listen, move down here. We'll get back in the ring. You'll lose a whole bunch of weight. And we'll rewrite the ending for us. And for us to go back, for me, it was everything. And it also was cool because I got my oldest two kids that were around when we were gone all the time. They got to see it live and see why Daddy was gone, and then see him grow up and miss Christmases and holidays and birthdays and all that stuff that you miss. So it was something. It's going to feel weird. It's something that I felt that I had to do for Chaz because of how everything left. It wasn't the way how I wanted it.
Yeah, and for me it was. I'm not crying.
It makes me so emotional because of how attached, I am with him and stuff like that. I'm closer to him than I am my own brother. So
it's a very inspiring story, to be able to go back after so many years and see the fans again and wrestle and compete all those years later, and people still remember you guys. Getting a chance to go to signings, getting the chance to meet the fans. It has to feel good knowing that you touched their lives in such a positive way.
It's still, so here's the funny thing. It's still funny for us to hear stories like that because we still are just two guys from South Jersey that just had different weird jobs that enjoyed doing it. And we hear stories how, Chaz has a really good story how somebody came up to him and talked to him about how we changed, their life. And you don't really think about stuff like that.
No, the whole gimmick evolved into something we didn't even try to evolve it into. And it turned into being, individualism, about being yourself, being your own person. People would ask us, why do you wear skirts? Why do you have earrings? Why do you put face paint on? Like, because we can. Why do you care? Like, we're not hurting anyone. Is this hurting you physically? You may not like looking at me, but if you don't like looking at me, don't freaking look at me then. I don't really care. This is what we enjoy wearing. This is what we enjoy doing. So this is what we do. As long as you're not hurt, do whatever the F you want to do. As long as you're not hurting anybody, who cares? So, we did that in a couple of interviews, not realizing so many people out there in the world were kind of feeling different about themselves and weren't comfortable coming out. We did a signing. I think maybe it was right after COVID, and there were two girls. They were like kept walking by, and we noticed them obviously because they were cute girls. But they're walking by. And eventually, they were kind of just standing there. And Glenn, being Glenn, he's like, you're just gonna stand there and stare at us like we're monkeys in the zoo all day. You're gonna actually walk up to the So they came up and they were like very like shy and like nervous. You could tell they were nervous, and we're like, what's wrong? And they were like, the one girl spoke up. She goes, you just have no idea the impact you had on me when I was growing up. She goes, I always felt different. Here they were together. They're gay. So two girls were together. And she goes, I always knew I was different, but I always hid it. She goes, my dad like never understood. She goes, but my dad and I watched wrestling together. She goes, we bonded over wrestling. And when you guys started coming out and you started saying, who cares? Just be your own person. Who cares if you wear makeup or you do this? As long as you're not hurting anyone, just be your own person. He was like, I got it. Like, it made him understand her. So they bonded over wrestling, but more importantly, because of us and our gimmick and what it turned into. And then it was probably about a week later, she sent me a message on Instagram, this real long thing, basically spelling it all out. And then she said to me, she goes, can you do me a favor? She goes, I want to get another tattoo. She goes, I want to get a tattoo. She goes, and I want it to say hope. She goes, can you write out hope and send me a picture of it? She goes, I'll pay you whatever you want. So I literally did it a couple of times to one where I liked it. And I sent it to her, and she has it tattooed on her arm right here, my handwriting that says hope on it. Because that was one of the words that like she hoped she could figure things out. And that was one of the words that she bonded with over her dad, with her dad. And to this day, even every now and then, we'll chat back and forth on Instagram about something. But never knowing, here's two guys that were just happy to have a gimmick, to have an opportunity, to get an opportunity to do something because we just wanted to go to Smoky Mountain Wrestling because we were making like $4 or $5 a night. $5 a night. It was a gold mine. And obviously Smoky Mountain at the time was a gateway into WWE. And we just took this gimmick that was just kind of an idea, and it evolved into this whole following that we had no idea about.
Yeah, I mean, it's being true to yourself, and the authenticity is what matters at the end of the day. And I want to talk about this because I know you guys outside of the ring have been involved with doing various acts of charity, have done charity work, and have volunteered over the years. What kinds of things have you done to help out in your community?
So I'm very involved with the community. I'm very fortunate. I've been pimping copiers and printers. When I got out of wrestling full time, I started leasing copiers and printers. Been doing that 23 years now. I was with one company for 8, and the company I'm with now I've been with for 15. So the company I'm with now is philanthropic. We give a third of our profits back to the community. So it kind of forced me into getting involved with the community. So I work with a lot of children's organizations. The biggest one, and the one that's dearest to my heart, is called Junior Achievement of South Florida. They basically help teach kids about entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and work readiness. And some of these kids are just amazing what they're doing. And I work with Boys and Girls Club. I work with Flight Center, Vita Nova, that help with human trafficking and helping kids that are aging out of foster care. So I do a lot with them, and I go and I mentor kids. I do public appearances with them, and I go and I sit down and I do meet and greets and things like that. But especially with Junior Achievement, because the cool thing about them is, like, one of the examples I can give you, they had this one program where it's like Shark Tank. They actually call it Spark Tank. But these kids in these schools, they compete against one another. They actually have to come up with a real product. They have to create a product. They have to invent it. And then they have to take it. They have to sell it. They have to get investors. They have to manufacture it. It's the whole thing, as if you were watching someone on Shark Tank. And they do it locally, and then it goes to like regional. And then the one I work with down here in South Florida is actually the largest in the world. And every year they send 2 or 3 schools to nationals in DC to compete for these products. So to help be a part of that and watching these kids grow. And I can tell you this, I wish I had someone teach me about financial literacy when I was in high school, because I'd be in a totally different position now. I mean, where I'm at right now, but I'm just saying the money that we were making when we were in WWE back then, like, I would have done different things with it. Like those kids now at the Performance Center for WWE, they have financial analysts that help them out. They have all these other things. And again, I know things evolve and you grow and things change. But being able to go down and volunteer and having one kid come up to me when I'm done and like thank me and say, what you said hit me, this part touched me. And like, I was helping these kids at Junior Achievement, and this one kid told me when he got done, he was from a not so great community. And he said to me, he goes, because of today and because of your help, he goes, my family will never do without. He goes, and I'll never go without a job. I mean, and that's a kid in 8th grade. So to me, that's what it's about. And it's my way. And I'm fortunate that I work for a company that allows me to do it. But at the same time, I get so much more out of it, just knowing that I'm making some kind of positive impact.
Definitely seems like it. Thrasher?
I mean, I've only done like basic stuff, like we have something down here as a food bank called Feed Florida. I've done help with them by stuffing bags, stuff like that through work here at the gym that I work at now. Basic things with even donating pizzas when I was in the pizza business and stuff like that, which I'm not anymore. So, just basic things like that. And, we'll go to, like Chad said, we'll go to camps and stuff like that and talk and wrestle and just talk to people and stuff like that. I don't think it's so, I think a lot of it is just, just being nice to people. And I think that, you never know what somebody's going through. So why try to make anything worse? Why don't you just smile, say hello to somebody, hold a door open, let somebody in on traffic. Just something as basic as just being a good person is something that I think is lost today. So it
really just kind of goes a long way. And and making someone's day is very important, because you just never know in somebody's life if they're struggling or if they're having a bad day or whatever. It takes one person to help somebody, turn that frown into a smile. So
the best part is when you're at the airport and Glenn walks over and just hugs random people and says, "It looks like he just hugs people."
It's funny. I think that's why. So I work for a gym in Florida. It's called UFit Gyms. It's just based out of Florida. It's not very large. It has 60 locations. But I think that, I worked here in 2011 to 2018. I left because I went back into pizza, and then I left that and came back. I think that's why I enjoy like this atmosphere so much, is because you do have a chance to change people. And I've been that person that struggled with weight and stuff like that. And there's times that I still struggle with it to today. So I like being able to help somebody, whether they're paying for it or not, just to get them, hey, maybe you should try this, or hey, let me help you with it, one of my coaches, or just something like that. So I think that's what draws me to this industry, is just helping somebody.
Yeah, I mean, and the gym is a perfect place for it, because you meet so many people all the time, and you're talking.
Not always the best people, though.
You're always meeting people. You're giving them pointers. You're working with them, and it's about techniques, and it builds up confidence.
Yeah, it definitely changes.
I just know me with the way I was brought up. Like, my dad was there, but he wasn't there. And again, parents back then, they didn't know any different. I just wanted to try and make things like that. My son's 21 now, and he's actually teaching me stuff, because he just, there's so much more ways to figure things out. But my goal with him was always to make him better than me. And I think I've done that. And I think it's because of the way I was brought up, because I always thought with him, when something happened, I go, what would my dad do? And I do the total opposite. But I think kids nowadays, they don't. I look at some of these kids that come from underprivileged neighborhoods when I am at Boys and Girls Club and at Junior Achievement, and I'm working with these different organizations, and I go, they may have that same situation at home that I had. Like, again, my dad was there, but he wasn't there, because when he was home, he just sat on the porch and smoked cigarettes and drank coffee. There was no help. There was no guidance there. So that's kind of how I look at it. And like I said, if I can impact one kid when I'm there, to me, it makes the world a better place. And listen, we're not going to change the entire world, because there's way too many morons out there. But if I can do it one kid at a time,
yeah, and common sense isn't so common anymore.
What is it about giving back to the community that gives you the most joy?
I think it's that. I just think it's just knowing, like, if I had, like I said, every time I get at least one kid who comes up to me and says, thank you. Or, if I'm able with my company I work with, it's called Dex Imaging, DEX Imaging, if I'm able with them, helping out and helping someone who, either was homeless or who came out of, one of my favorite things to do also is the kids aging out of foster care. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but if you're in foster care, it's the day you turn 18 or the day you graduate from high school, they hand you a black trash bag. They throw all your stuff in it and they say, be off, you're gone. So I work with organizations. I have a woman on my team, Jody, who's amazing. She's really passionate about that. And so because of her, I'm able to work with a lot of these organizations to help these kids. So like for me, I collect clothes. Like when I'm done with certain clothes, or I'm like, all right, I haven't worn this suit in a while, or I have a hanger system in my closet where I switch to hangers every so often. But like after 6, 7, 8, 9 months, if it's on the same hanger and I haven't changed it, that means I don't need it because I haven't worn it. So I give it to these kids that are aging out so they can have nice clothes while they're going to have to try and get jobs and do job interviews. So those kids there, like I work with them. I help them with, doing job interviews. Like I'll do a mock interview with them. I help them with, setting up LinkedIn and different social media stuff because, social media is huge because everyone looks at it. So you got to have a good brand. So to me, that's just I love being able to give back. I love being able to help. I love when they're done and I go back and I see them and they're like, oh my God, like I just got this job and it's an amazing job. And, it's not, it's the thank you you get and you see it and you see them be able to grow and get better. They come back, you go 6 months, like you go back 6 months later and they're like, they're graduating and they're like, now they're graduating top of their class. And you just feel like you were able to help with that, like one little thing.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely having those success stories really has to make you feel good inside because you've changed their life for the better and you're able to see them go on their way and make it in the world. So
well, the other part of it also is like, when I do go out, because I do a lot of these events and I do a lot of networking, and part of what I do because of that is I bring other donors in. And then I'm able to talk passionately about it and then they understand it. Then they come see it. Okay, now I'm bringing another donor in who's going to be able to, a company that's going to be able to donate money to help keep these things funded because, they're all nonprofits. They're all, so they're not there for profit. They're there because, and I know like with Junior Achievement, it breaks all the way down for every dollar that's donated to Junior Achievement of South Florida, 93 cents of it goes to the kids. 93 cents of that dollar goes to the kids. So, I mean, just knowing that is just an amazing thing.
Definitely is. Thrasher, do you have anything to add?
Nope. Nothing. I mean, it's just being able to help people. I think, it's a good feeling. I mean,
I work with another group called ARC, A-R-C, and they actually came to me and they were like, hey, we're doing a WWE day. So Glenn and I will go together. We get full gimmick. And ARC is mentally challenged kids who actually take these kids and teach them how to cook. They become cooks. They get into culinary stuff. They actually help teach them how to get jobs out, in restaurants and things like that. So when we went one time and I'll get Glenn and we get in full gimmick. We bring the belts with us and just, you see it and you hear their stories and you just listen to their stories and you kind of chime in when you can to help out. But sometimes just sitting there and being there is better. And actually, Glenn's way better at those than I am because I get even more trying to think of the right way to say this. I guess I get a little more reserved in situations like that. I get a little more uncomfortable because I know what they're going through. And I'm like, what do you say to someone who's sitting there going through all this stuff and going, say, how's your day? Like Glenn's got a way of bringing that out in them, getting them to talk about it. While I kind of just sit in the background and just kind of chime in or help out where I can. So it's just different because it's like when we were with WWF, we were in Philly, we went to Children's Hospital and they videoed us and then put us on the news. And you could clearly see on my face looking at these kids, I just had this look of oh shit, what these kids are going through. And, Glenn's able to, his personality is different than mine where he's able to, get these kids laughing and inside it may be affecting him, but it doesn't show on his face. Me, everything shows on my face.
Well, also at that time, I also had, kids and stuff like that. And sometimes you have to just step back and realize that, they just might need a hello or, just to make them laugh so they can forget about anything that's going on, inside, outside, or how they're feeling or anything like that. Yeah, I love going to see, kids and anything to do with that. I love that.
Yeah, definitely doesn't hurt to make someone's day and put a smile on someone's face.
No, like I said, Glenn will walk around the airport and just hug people.
Kindness goes a long way, and it always wins in the end.
Yep.
Well, guys, I just want to say thank you for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you and what you're doing? Anything you want to plug, feel free.
Well, they can find me on Facebook, under Glenn Ruth. I follow everybody back on Twitter or X. I follow people back now and Instagram, stuff like that. I like talking to the fans. I like talking to people and mixing it up with them. And everything's either Glenn Ruth or Thrasher, Glenn Ruth, or anywhere like that.
So for me, it's simple. Everything's Chaz Mosh. I have chazmosh.com, the new website, up with a lot of different things going on there. Instagram, again, all my social media is Chaz Mosh. Go to the website. We're going to start a monthly newsletter. So you go to chazmosh.com. You can subscribe. And then, once we start the newsletter, you'll start getting that as well. Lots of cool different stuff that's going to be going on there. And then I got the podcast also that's on YouTube. And we actually started tonight. Every Monday, that'll be live on Facebook on my wrestling page, which is Chaz Mosh, Chaz Warrington. So everything's Chaz Mosh. Just put in Chaz Mosh and hopefully a bunch of shit comes up. That's the goal.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And you're more than welcome to come back.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye. This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.